Welcome back to Joe and the Fat Man. We have two segments down and two to go. Joe Spelter, Nittany Sports Now, Kyle Golik, Nittany Sports Now, and Mike Farrell Sports. Jay Hallahan, who doubles as our producer, he is also a writer for Mike Farrell Sports. And we're in the summer, and coaches say some crazy things during the summer, and that's what Ohio State's Ryan Day did this week by saying that the Big Ten should have, quote, at least four automatic bids to a 16 team, hypothetical for now, 16 team college football playoff. The exact quote from the ESPN interview was, "We're in the Big Ten and we have 18 teams and some of the best programs in the country. I feel like we deserve at least four automatic qualifiers." James Franklin was asked to respond to this today in his annual summer availability. And he did something that every college football coach is very good at doing. He talked for several minutes and didn't really answer the question that he was asked. He ended up using this time to reiterate some things he said before about the big picture of college football, that college football needs a commissioner. He even pointed out that some teams don't play in conferences. I wonder who he could have been referring to there. But he didn't really answer whether he agreed with Day. I think reading between the lines, he said things like, not all conferences are created equal. Conferences should be rated differently. I think that might indicate that he does agree with Day, at least to an extent. But he didn't want to say flat out, yeah, I agree we should have four automatic bids, or no, I don't agree with a coach in my conference. So James did the political thing, the smart thing, and from the media standpoint, the boring thing, but we understand why. It's just part of the game. But since we have less to lose by giving our opinions, do you guys agree with Ryan Day that the Big Ten should have four automatic bids? I think I have a good idea where this is going, but fellas, floor is yours.
So I don't buy 1 cent out of filibustering Franklin. Like he tried to filibuster that entire time to just milk the clock. He probably was looking at the clock and goes, if I talk it this long, it's fewer questions and less exposure. At the end of the
Well,
day,
I'll interrupt you there. If he was doing that, it didn't work because he was scheduled for 15 minutes and he talked for 26 minutes. So if that was his intention, he backfired on it.
sometimes it happens to the best of us. But good call for being there, Joe. So I agree with Ryan Day. You know, at the end of the day, here in college football, you know, you're starting to hear from guys from Brett Bielema, Kirk Signetti, even within the Big Ten. You know, not just conferences, teams, even within the own conference. Do you guys think Rutgers and Illinois and Indiana have the financial withdrawal to compete with like a Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon? The answer to that question is emphatically no. And it's like you have to look at it from the perspective of the millionaires and billionaires of those schools that raise the money. It's okay, am I going to dump in, say, $50 million here to see my program get to a marginal bowl game? What is the ROI for me to see? Like if I was a Rutgers booster, oh, we're playing in
Mayo Bowl.
the Mayo Bowl. Like I get to see my head coach Greg Schiano get dunked potentially with Duke's Mayo. That isn't enough for those guys. Like when you're dumping that kind of money, ROI is championships, legacy type things that last forever. You know, Joe, you and I had the great pleasure of being credentialed and covered the Fiesta Bowl. You know, I don't know what your thoughts were going into that game, but I'm going to tell you mine because I drove from Los Angeles to Phoenix to cover that game and drove back to be able to cover the Rose Bowl. Let me tell
Well,
you,
your thoughts were probably, oh shit, I have to cover the Rose Bowl tomorrow.
well, yeah, pretty much. And then
It's a
secondly,
long drive.
it was a long drive for me to watch Penn State to just open. You know, it was a lose-lose situation for me. You know, covering it for Penn State. If Penn State wins it, they're supposed to win it. It's Boise State. They're a group of 5 team. If Penn State loses it, it's another trope article that Big Game James blows another that I have to write that I'm probably would nothing more than to just retire that article. So the thing where college football is, and this is where I agree, I'm hoping the SEC and the Big Ten break away from the rest of the other Power 2, rest of the Group of 5. Yep, they play each other. They have their own playoff, and they crown their own national champions. Guys, what we learned when Florida State got screwed in the college football playoff, going undefeated and not getting a shot into the invitational, because that's all this college football playoff is. It's an invitational. It's who do we want at our party? Who do we want, at these games to make the most money for our little corporation? It's its own entity. It's like the people that are like, oh, Michigan did this with Connor Stallions. They're going to lose their national championship. No, they're not. That company is not going to give up that and take that national championship away. It has nothing to do with the NCAA. It's an invitational. Look, why can't the Big Ten and the SEC create their own invitational and call it the national championship? Because guess what? Those are what does the ACC, the Big 12, and the Group of 5 have that the nation really cares about team-wise? You might say Clemson, Florida State, Miami a little bit, North Carolina because Belichick's there. But ultimately beyond that, nothing. Skadoosh. Notre Dame has like that little tie in there. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame would be like, bye, if it meant like the only teams that could vie for the Big Cup. They would jump to either the SEC or the Big Ten, and both those conferences would take them. I agree with Ryan Day 1,000%. I'm not saying a Group of 5 team can't wreak havoc and win this thing, but with how football is, you got to not think about it. A Group of 5 team probably beyond this year probably has to win a first round game, quarterfinal, semifinal, and final. It's 4 games. That's 4 individual days that most likely a very inferior team that doesn't have the talent. When you start looking at a 2 deep, you got some real nice pieces in some areas that gets them into that playoff. But when you start having that season that's starting to get 14, 15, 16, and 17 games long, you need to have talent in that 2 deep. They don't have it at that level. This is why I agree with Ryan Day.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we started off with 4. It took forever to get to 12 or even just expand from 4. And now all of a sudden we're going to 16, which, I mean, I understand to a degree, but I mean, I just kind of need to see the format of it all. I'm kind of back and forth on this. I mean, to one degree, I get what he's saying. The Big Ten should be as well represented as the SEC for sure. I just think you're already going to get a good quarter of the bids already. I mean, I don't think necessarily the Big Ten even needs 4 automatic bids. You're already going to get 4 no matter what, in my opinion, at least. Joe, what about you?
Yeah, to add further context, if the 16-team model, the most likely thing seems to be, and this isn't confirmed yet, but it seems to be, it's going to be a 4-4-2, 2-1 type of deal. So Big Ten gets 4, SEC gets 4, ACC and Big 12 get 2 each, and then there's one. I guess it's the group of 6 now that would have their. That it's pretty much the same as it is now, where they would get 1 qualifier. So. Yeah, I kind of want to see how the 12 team plays out with the tweak to it, with the top 4 teams getting buys regardless of conference championships. I'm just wondering to myself, what happens if next year the 4th best team in the Big Ten isn't nearly as good as Indiana was this year?
Yeah,
like would they be deserving of that?
No.
So why would they get to go then? That's what I'm trying.
It's an invitational, Joe. They want the 12 best brands. It's all a charade with the group of 5 and all that to bring.
Okay, so if Illinois is really good and they're the 4th team, they're not a brand. So you want them going?
And that's legitimately going to be. I could argue that they would go. because what's Indiana? Is Indiana a brand? Indiana basketball's a brand.
Indiana got there on merit last year, though.
But what if Illinois goes 10-2, like Indiana was?
It depends on the 2 losses.
Correct. But look at that's the thing. It's going to be there. Here's what I want to avoid. And guess what, guys? I'm just going to throw this out there for those that are like, why is he complaining? Blah, blah, blah. Here's my damn receipt from Enterprise in Los Angeles to pay $500 for me to go to that Fiesta Bowl to watch Penn State absolutely dominate Boise State. I don't want to be paying money to go watch bloodbaths. I want to watch good football games. If it happens to be a bloodbath when it's like 2 juggernauts, I'm okay with it. But when I literally see someone who doesn't have the same talent in a 2 deep, I don't want to watch that.
Those teams are going to still be there in the playoff, though.
They don't I don't know why
I think the problem is with the seeding, what it comes down to, because Boise State gets that bye. Boise State doesn't get that bye. They probably don't play Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. They probably come here to play Penn State and get their butts instead of SMU. I think the seeding was more the issue there with why Boise State.
The problem I have with how this corporation, that's what I'm referring to the college football as committee. It's the corporation. They knee-jerk react to every little thing. Why does every other sport known to mankind can figure out a playoff that is very objective on how you qualify, how you're seeded, and a legitimate champion is created? Meanwhile, you got a bunch of guys and gals. There's women that's also part of this committee. Condi Rice was in there, so we got to be equal time here. Okay, and look, if I was getting this continental breakfast and first class flights into Texas and sitting there watching college football all day, Joe, would you? If someone said, we're going to pay you to come to fly to Texas, you're going to stay in a 5-star hotel, you're going to be fed all day, you get to sit in a leather recliner, watch these games, and on Sundays you get to debate where these teams are ranked. Would you sign up for that?
Knowing me, I'd find something to bitch about, but yeah, I probably would.
Jay, would you do that?
Absolutely.
Who wouldn't? I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'm willing to bet right now you could go to any sports bar and say, hey, guys, I'm going to pay you each $100. I'm going to take care of your beer tab for the day here. I need you to take notes and then come back here the following day for us to go to that, and I'll pay you a little bit more money. I guarantee you'd find every guy in the world that would sign up for that. Until college football gets it right of being objective, where it's like, and look, there's going to be a lot of sore, athletic directors and coaches that, they love getting up, being able to make their opinions, to put this mythical corporate invitational together. Until that ends, we're stuck in this. I'm not even going to say the word because it is against the guidelines of our show, but you can put it together.
So some PT, what did PTI call their like air segment at the end that Tony Reale used to do?
Airs or the big finish?
Not the big finish. It was
airs and emissions.
Airs and emissions. I had one. I realized that 44221 adds up to 13 and not 16. There are 3 at-large bids in this proposed format too. So now that I've cleared that up, so Kyle, you like the idea of the Big Ten and SEC having 4 automatic bids. Do you like the 44221? Is that the way to go?
Oh, go ahead, Kyle. I just thought of something.
So I'll also give an error and omission. I said Indiana was 10-2. They were 11-1 last year. They finished 11-2, so you could understand. But anyhow, I can live with it. But at the end of the day, you still got all those teams that I just don't feel line up. I'm not saying that they can't, think about the college baseball. The SEC had 13 teams get into college baseball tournament here, and what nine of SEC teams got wiped out in the first round.
Yep.
I'm
With
not
multiple
saying
head
that
coaches
can't
making
happen.
asses of themselves along the way, but
But
that's
how often is that going to happen? That's the question I'm going to say. Just because something happens once doesn't mean it's going to be a repeatable thing. You look at what the resources are in these conferences. Again, I'm gonna throw my old hat back on for 1 second. The worst thing that happened to college athletics was this 1984 Supreme Court case when college athletics would do the media rights and equally distribute things amongst the conference. Once everything became, well, Oklahoma wanted theirs and Georgia wanted theirs, and conferences began collectively bargaining for themselves. The Big Ten's assets are always going to be worth more than the Big 12's. It's just the way of life. And unless people in the Big 12 start spending a lot of money to try to crash the thing, it's always there. It's an uphill battle. It's the same thing in the ACC. So when you have such an unlevel playing field of resources, it's like, and look, I have all the respect for all these programs. So please don't think that I don't respect what athletes are doing at all these levels. I do. But at the end of the day, it's when you look at a full roster, when you look at a 2 deep, when you see the talent level be that much higher at all these other places versus what you get, and you're getting these lopsided games. Look, I know Penn State fans are going to love the SMU game, the first playoff game for life with the back-to-back pick sixes and all the above. But that was kind of anticlimactic in my opinion. I mean, it was like Penn State literally went in and it was like 1980s Mike Tyson against some poor bum of a boxer. So that's just my thoughts.
Okay. Well, that does it for segment 3 of Joe and the Fat Man. We're going to bring it home, segment 4, with the boxing mystery. Me and Jay don't know what it is yet. Fat Man does. We'll all find out together on the final segment of this episode of Joe and the Fat Man.